Welcome back. Today we're looking into 3 really unsettling accounts, real-life stories from people who found themselves in deeply disturbing situations, often miles from anywhere or anyone. These aren't ghost stories, but tales of human fear, isolation, and mysteries that, well, they don't really wrap up neatly. We want to explore what connects these events, the questions they leave hanging. So let's get into it.
Yeah, and what's striking about these narratives is that ambiguity. It's personal, it's raw, and the lack of a clear resolution is often the most chilling part. You really see how being isolated, physically or even psychologically, just changes the whole dynamic of a threat.
Definitely. Let's start with maybe the most isolated case, the White Nova mystery. This happened back in June 1987. Picture this. A college student house-sitting this huge hunting estate. And it's remote, like 22 miles from the nearest town.
22 miles. Yeah, that's serious isolation. Any car showing up unexpectedly on a private drive that far out, it's instantly wrong. You're completely on your own out there.
Exactly. And it sounds like a pretty good gig for him. $1,200 for the month, free run of the place, food, drinks, just had to feed a horse.
Yeah.
He was enjoying it, reading, writing, target practice, total solitude. Until one night, about 2 a.m., he's woken up by this incredibly loud, hard pounding on the front door.
Just pounding. Not calling out or anything.
No, just relentless pounding. And his 2 German shepherds, they just went absolutely ballistic. Imagine that sound. 2 a.m., dead silence, 22 miles from help. Terrifying. So he grabs his gun, heads upstairs, keeps quiet, makes that split-second call, do not engage. Because really, who drives 22 miles down a private road in the middle of the night and starts hammering on the door like that? It doesn't feel innocent.
It immediately shifts, doesn't it? From maybe a mistake to something intentional, something threatening. And the isolation just magnifies that sound, turns knocking into an immediate emergency. Staying quiet, not answering. It was probably crucial. It forced whatever it was to show its hand, in a way.
Right. So the next morning, the pounding stopped. Whoever it was is gone. But there's evidence left behind. A white Chevy Nova, just sitting there in the driveway down near the caretaker's cabin, maybe 100 yards off. He calls the owner. Owner calls the cops.
And here's where the real puzzle starts. Police arrive. They confirm the car is locked. And this is the critical detail. They find only one set of tire tracks leading into the property.
Just one set. So whoever drove it in
didn't drive it out. They must have left on foot or were taken. The car was just abandoned there. A physical marker of that frantic arrival in the night.
Wow. Okay, so weeks go by, the student's back at college. He finds out later that the owner of that Nova, he'd been reported missing.
Right.
But he doesn't get the full story for months until he actually bumps into the owner's daughter.
Oh, okay.
And she tells him, her father was found dead about 30 miles away from the estate, and the official ruling, suicide.
Suicide. See, that fills a report, closes a file, but it completely clashes with the timeline, with the facts on the ground that night. If this was a planned suicide, why drive 22 miles to a stranger's remote house and pound desperately on the door?
Exactly. Why abandon your locked car 30 miles from where your body is eventually found? It makes no sense.
It raises that huge question, doesn't it? Was the person frantically knocking that night, even the car owner? Or was something else going on entirely? The official story asks you to ignore that terrifying first act. The single track, the locked car, the desperate knocking.
It feels like the incident at the house was maybe a moment of pure panic, an attempted escape maybe?
Precisely. The evidence points towards immediate danger that night. The suicide ruling feels like a convenient way to close the book on something much darker, something that actually remains completely unsolved.
That ambiguity is just, it sticks with you. But isolation isn't always about miles, is it? Sometimes it's about being vulnerable, even in plain sight. Let's shift gears to the second story, the dog walker's dilemma. This one happens in a small seaside town.
Right, and this is a fascinating contrast because it shows vulnerability can be manufactured even in a public, familiar setting. The dog walker feels safe, they have a routine beach, promenade, the little lakes. It's predictable. Their bond with the dog feels secure.
So the narrator is walking their dog, and this dog is described as really well-trained, super obedient. They walk past an older man sitting on a bench, nothing unusual. But just as they pass, the man suddenly, sharply says, "Sit." Just
like that, out of the blue.
Yeah, and the dog, because it's so well-trained, just instantly obeys, drops into a sit, looks up at the owner, probably expecting a treat, The narrator's annoyed, frowns at the man, encourages the dog to get up, tries to move on.
And that's the hook, isn't it? The psychological impact is immediate. The very training the owner relies on for control is suddenly used against them.
Yeah.
The dog becomes an anchor, forcing the owner to stop, to interact with the dog, instead of just walking away from this weird stranger.
Exactly. And the man tests again right away. Before they've even gone 5 feet, he yells it again, "Sit!" And the dog obeys again. Now the narrator's getting really uncomfortable, physically having to pull the dog up, irritation turning into, well, confusion, maybe unease.
The shift from just annoying to genuinely sinister happens next, right?
Yeah. The man says sit a third time. But this time, he gets up from the bench, starts walking towards them, closing the distance fast, and the narrator sees he's grinning.
Oh, that's chilling.
And that's the moment of realization. The narrator thinks he was using the dog's obedience to slow me down to keep me from getting away from him. It wasn't about physical force. It was about manipulating that bond, that training.
It's a really disturbing example of non-physical coercion. He didn't need a weapon. He just understood that relationship, that ingrained compliance between owner and pet. He used it to create an opening, turning a safe routine into a trap.
So what did the narrator do?
Immediate, drastic action. They realized the danger, scooped up the dog, breaking that command cycle, turned, ran straight up a nearby hill, and scrambled over a fence to get away. They had to completely abandon the routine to break the manipulation.
Wow. Using your own beloved pet against you, that's deeply unsettling. Okay, let's move to our third story. This one also starts in isolation, deep woods like the first story, but it ends with a much more concrete and frankly horrifying answer involving someone in authority.
Yes, this one sort of provides the piece the other two leave open. It tackles that really uncomfortable question. What if the threat isn't some unknown stranger, but someone you're supposed to trust, someone meant to protect you?
So this is back in the 80s. We've got 2 young boys, maybe 11 or 12 years old. They spend hours playing Army, exploring these huge woods behind their neighborhood, going really deep, miles in, places other people just didn't go.
Standard kid stuff for the time, exploring the boundaries.
Right, and one day, they're way out in new territory, hours into their hike, and they find something incredible. A massive treehouse, like seriously well-built, solid, 30 feet up in a tree, a proper hidden castle. They spend ages rigging up a rope with stick rungs just to get up there.
30 feet up, miles into the woods. The effort involved tells you something. This was built for absolute secrecy, total inaccessibility. The friend, Alex, gets up first, right?
Yeah. Alex climbs in. It's about an 8x8 space inside. He comes back out moments later, just white as a sheet. The narrator climbs up, wondering what's wrong, and then sees it.
Sees what?
The inside walls, covered, every single inch, with Polaroid pictures, not magazine cutouts, Polaroids of, well, they called it kiddie porn. Pictures of children, some looking about their own age, just stapled neatly, methodically, all over the walls.
Oh my God. That shift from childhood adventure to just pure horror? Their immediate reaction telling the narrator's dad was exactly right. And the dad calls the police straight away.
But this is where the story takes another dark turn, focusing on trust or lack thereof. The police officer who responds, his behavior is immediately off. He gets increasingly rude, almost accusatory towards the boys.
Accusatory how?
He wasn't focused on the evidence in the treehouse. He kept pressing them. Did you take any pictures? Did you touch anything? Demanding the exact location over and over. And then the family was basically told to stay out of those woods. Restricted access.
That's a massive red flag. His focus isn't investigative. It sounds defensive. Like he's trying to control access to the scene, minimize what the boys saw, rather than investigate a horrific crime. The authority figure, the one meant to help, is instead creating fear and confusion.
Exactly. And the answer, the confirmation of why, doesn't come for years. The boys are in college. Alex sends the narrator an email. He'd seen an article in the state newspaper.
About what?
About that same police officer. He had shot himself with his service revolver. His wife had discovered he was involved in circulating child pornography.
The connection is immediate and sickening. The treehouse wasn't random. It was his secret stash, his hidden place.
Yeah. So this story, unlike the others, it gives you the horrifying answer. It confirms the isolated horror was being committed by someone in a position of power, someone trusted, and it reveals a complete failure of the system meant to catch him.
So when you put these 3 stories together, the remote estate, the seaside town, the deep woods, what's the thread connecting them?
Well, isolation is definitely key. Physical distance, like the estate or the hidden nature of the woods, it provides cover. But also that psychological isolation, like the dog walker trapped by routine and trust.
Right. Isolation enables the threat. But the true danger seems to lie in the manipulation of trust or expectations. In the Nova story, the official narrative clashes with the lived experience, creating distrust. The dog walker's trust in her pet is weaponized. And in the treehouse, the ultimate betrayal of trust by an authority figure.
It seems the scariest threats are the ones that exploit that ambiguity, or where the path to resolution, to safety, is blocked or corrupted.
Exactly. And maybe the lesson for you, listening, is about that situational awareness, trusting your gut, recognizing when something shifts, like with the man and the dog, from just odd to actively threatening, especially when those normal safety nets, police, witnesses, neighbors aren't there, or worse, might be compromised themselves.
That failure of accountability really hangs over all these stories, doesn't it? The mystery sticks around because the official response feels inadequate or, in the last case, was horrifyingly complicit.
Which brings us to a final thought to leave you with. In those stories where it is left hanging, the Nova mystery, the dog walker, how much do we, or should we, rely on official closure, like a suicide ruling, when our instincts, the actual facts we know, scream that something else, something far more sinister, was really going on? What do you do when the only real evidence left is that deep, lingering feeling of unease?
A really unsettling question to ponder. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. We hope these stories gave you something to think about, maybe heightened that sense of awareness. If you found this exploration compelling, please do give us a like, share it with someone who appreciates these kinds of unsettling real-life mysteries, and be sure to subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs, for more content like this. We'll see you next time.